Everybody, welcome to Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain. I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. Today we're going to be talking about the aftermath. Maybe some of you didn't get gluten, but we get this every year. It's one of our top questions. You know, I went and ate at my family members. I ate OPF, right? Other people's food. Now I've gotten glutened. What do I do? How can I feel better quickly? So we're going to dive into some detox strategies around overcoming how to basically how to get better after getting gluten. So stick with me. But I think more importantly, we're going to talk about some of the psychology. So one of the things I want you all to understand is it's a normal, natural progress or process rather when you're going gluten-free to challenge the whole status. So what do I mean by that? A lot of people go gluten-free. They feel better. Then they go to a relative's house or that, you know, they break down over a holiday and they eat gluten on purpose. That can be very normal for many of you. Now, some people watching may have gone gluten-free and it was cold turkey and never went back, never looked back. That wasn't me. I challenge everything. So I certainly, when I went gluten-free almost 20 years ago, I challenged the premise and reintroduced it and paid a price, as most people do. But I think for many of you, it's important to understand that going gluten-free and then challenging that premise and getting gluten hammered, if you will, is for most people, it's part of their learning curve. It's part of what helps them to mature into understanding that the diet is actually the right move. And that with that being in mind, it's a lot easier to fully commit when you've had experiences that were negative after, you know, deviating from the diet. So some of you maybe are just getting your copy of No Grain, No Pain. Some of you may have just found, you know, this channel and you're like, what is he talking about? I haven't gone gluten-free yet. So remember this conversation and bookmark this video and come back to it, you know, when you get to that level or that position in your gluten-free diet. I mean, for most people, just going gluten-free is a 12-week learning curve. But you know, we all come and face these challenges where maybe we've gone gluten-free, we feel better, we're on the right track, and then we have a holiday blunder, and that's what I really want to talk about tonight. So one of the key things before we talk about how to detox, so stay with me, we are definitely going to be talking about detoxification from gluten, but it's learn the lesson if you did deviate. So again, a lot of people, what do we call, what's the difference between ignorance and stupidity? And the big difference is in education, right? Doing something out of ignorance is generally you didn't know better, right? Didn't know better, didn't know any better. Versus stupidity, which is you knew better, but you did it anyway. Now, everybody's stupid sometimes, including me. I'm not going to pretend that I don't make stupid mistakes. That being said, we want to be stupid a lot less, right? So, like, if we're saying, okay, would we prefer that we're stupid all the time? No. I mean, making mistakes out of ignorance from not knowing any better is one thing, but to self-select this, right, as a normal kind of contingent of our life choices, then you'd get what you deserve is the point. So you know, if you did this over the holiday season, and again, I'm in good company if you did, because I've done this in the past. I don't do it anymore, but I've done this, right? And you knew better, and you paid a price. Learn the lesson. Right? Learn the lesson. Sometimes lessons are reinforced, through bad experiences. And I think that's important to understand, because many of you go through this gluten challenge, right? And there can be ample bad experiences. The bad experience of feeling unhealthy or feeling in poor health or becoming sick. And then the bad experience of getting sick once you've established better health as a result of diet change. Like, these are reinforcing experiences in life. So again, don't hover around this, right? And move away from this, because once you're watching this show, you no longer have the excuse of ignorance, because we talk about gluten plenty. And so all of you watching, unless you're just newbies, should know better. So now you have to saddle yourself with stupidity. And nobody, again, like I said, nobody wants to saddle themselves with the knowledge of repetitive stupidity. That's a recipe for disaster. So walk away better equipped. Learn the lesson. and walk away better equipped to deal with it next time. So some of the strategies I talked about last week, which was navigating the holidays while trying to maintain your gluten-free diet. We talked about, calling ahead. If you were going and traveling and going to somebody else's house, calling ahead, bringing your own food, making sure that somebody didn't slave away on a kitchen to try to prepare food for you and then you just show up and say, no, I'm not going to eat it. Like, that's rude. But calling ahead of time and saying, I have a special dietary need, I can't expect you to follow through with that, with those expectations. That's common sense. That's good judgment, and that's respecting the other person and what they're trying to accomplish by hosting that holiday party. So again, walk away better equipped. Learn the lesson, and when you learn that lesson, so as you got sick and said, okay, not worth it, now take that lesson and plan for the next event. What are you going to do differently next time? How are you going to approach that next holiday party? Because look, we're at the cusp of parties, right? Thanksgiving is the beginning of the onslaught of the month of December Christmas parties, whether you host your own or you visit friends and family who host theirs, or you go to an office work party. Like, there's no shortage of opportunities, right, to repeat the mistake if you did cheat at Thanksgiving. And so what ends up happening for a lot of people, and I'm really clear here, is a lot of people end up 2 months out of their year, November and December, and really you go back to even Halloween, because a lot of people cheat at Halloween. They're eating all the candy, right? So you got Halloween, and then you got the month of November, which is Thanksgiving. And so there's this 2-month period out of the year where you could arguably in your own head you could justify cheating, right? If you wanted to, if you really wanted to. Most people self-justify internally, and so that's 1/6 of your entire year, right? Which by percentage, if you were taking a 6-question test and you missed a question, you'd already be at a pretty poor grade. So think of that in terms of your year. Don't think of it in terms of, okay, I'm just going to cheat this month through these parties and then I'm going to make a New Year's resolution to do better. New Year's resolutions, in my opinion, are just you telling yourself you're going to continue to give yourself permission to damage yourself, so that at a certain date in the future, you'll stop that damage. It's basically saying I'm going to give myself permission to become unhealthy for the next 2 months. Most people spend their New Year's resolution trying to recoup their health from the damage they did over Thanksgiving and December parties, and then they never make it. And so every year they go backward just a little bit, right? Gain an extra 2 pounds this year, an extra pound the next year, an extra 2 pounds the next year. And it's not that weight gain is actually the emphasis that I want to preach, but that's just an example of what we commonly see as people get older. They pack on weight. What does packing on weight actually mean? It doesn't, I'm not worried about the weight so much. It's the inflammation that comes with that added weight, because when you pack on weight, understand that is an inflammatory issue. So the more of that fat that you harbor, the more inflammation you're most likely harboring as a result of those choices. So learn from the mistake. Don't wait for the new year to plan. Plan right now. Like, get December. You've all got a calendar, and you've all probably got a list of parties that you've been invited to or that you may be planning on attending. So plan for these now. And what are you going to do to plan for that? Again, we mentioned call your family, right? Get a hold of them. Let them know what your dietary restrictions are if you haven't already, and make sure they're supporting you. Take your own recipe. Make your own food. Bring your own food. Pack your own food. Easy things that you can all do, right? And if you're eating out, like, plan that, call that restaurant. If there's a party at a restaurant, look at what that menu has to offer. See what's there. If you don't feel comfortable with eating it because you don't feel like you can get away without being hammered or cross-contaminated with gluten, eat before you go. And maybe when you go to the restaurant, do something different. Like, some people bring in an item, or some people just order, if you do alcohol, just order a glass of wine or something and still be social, but don't necessarily eat something where you're going to run into a problem, or where there's this massive potential for a problem. So again, plan that next event. And then, down here we've got supplementation. So how can you plan yourself? We talked about some of these things last time, but like, if you're traveling, you should be carrying Gluten Shield as an enzyme to help protect you from cross-contamination. In my opinion, if you're worried about gluten exposure and you're going to loosen up your diet a little bit, not on purpose eat gluten, but potentially run the risk of cross-contamination, this is number one, and this is number two, because anytime you get gluten exposure, small amounts, this will help give you a degree of enzymatic support to break that gluten down. And then the body defense, we know gluten exposure causes a reduction in certain types of bacteria, right? Healthy bacteria, your microflora. And that's what this was designed for, was to kind of replenish those microbiota that we know gluten can damage and destroy. The third on my list here is something called immune shield, and what it does is it acts as surrogate handcuffs in your intestine to bind on to toxic elements that you might be exposed to so you can poop them out. So like these are kind of three that I highly recommend if you're traveling and you know you might be getting some exposure. But these are, I keep these in my backpack, right? These are my gluten travel kit, if you will, when I know I'm going to be maybe forced into a situation where I might have to eat OPF, other people's food, when I'm traveling to do lectures and things. Oftentimes I'll pack my own food. Well, let's talk about doing a detoxification from gluten next. So let's say you learn from your lesson, you're planning your next thing, but you still feel horrible and you don't know what to do. Like you're trying to overcome this getting glutened episode, and you're trying to overcome it so that you can feel better as quickly as possible. So the number one rule in this is time heals all wounds, right? Time heals. Your body will heal if you quit throwing in what damages it. So time will heal, but you have to stop the gluten. It's not going to heal if you don't do that. So number one is understand that time will heal. Now, some people want to accelerate this time frame, right? And there's some nuances to this, because one of the nuances is if you inflame the intestine when you get glutened, what happens as a subsequent to that is, remember what I mentioned earlier, your microbiome, you diminish your microbiome, you cause a leaky gut, so you spring a hole in your GI tract lining. Like these are actual known things that happen when somebody with gluten sensitivity eats gluten anyway, right? So you get an inflammation in your intestine, you deplete your microbiome to a certain extent, you spring holes in your gut lining, which can increase the risk of that inflammation being systemic, meaning it passes your gut and it goes into your body, right? So that inflammation becomes systemic. And so that could cause, like, let's say it causes, for some people it might cause joint pain, for other people it might cause liver inflammation, other people it might cause vision issues or headaches. It just depends on who the person is and what their response to gluten is. But we know this is one of the side effects of what happens. How much gluten does it take? Well, I'm not going to write the answer on the board. We're actually, let's do a giveaway tonight. I want to do another giveaway because I'm in a holiday spirit mood. First person that gets this one right, not the first, we'll pick, because a lot of you know the answer, and everybody, the same people are winning all the time. So I'm going to have my team pick. But person who gets this right, we're going to give away a free copy of No Grain, No Pain for the holidays. How much gluten is enough to cause inflammation in the body for up to 2 months? Okay, so we're going to be taking answers to that question over the course of the next few minutes, and we'll pick a winner, and I'll come back and answer it. So how much gluten? Again, that's the question. How much gluten exposure does it take? It doesn't take much. There's your only hint I'm going to give you. How much gluten exposure to create damage times 2 months? Okay. So again, you get that exposure. You did it to yourself. You know that there's this 2-month period where there's going to be initially a very acute phase of inflammation, which is generally more symptoms, more problems. But over the course of that 2 months, your body, again, heals. Time heals. Your body can heal if you quit getting exposure. But what you've created is you've created a microbiome defect. You've created a leaky gut scenario, which increases the risk for systemic inflammation, not just localized inflammation to the GI tract. And these are just a few of the things that come with that gluten exposure. There are others. So what can we do to detoxify our bodies as quickly as possible to get it to support its rebound from this exposure? So number one, this is my favorite thing right here to do. So this is by far my favorite thing to do when somebody gets gluten, and it's called a vitamin C flush. What is a vitamin C flush? It's using vitamin C in higher doses over the course of a few hours to drive water into the bowel to flush the bowels out. So we're basically trying to flush. If we got any gluten in there that's lingering from, maybe for some people gluten causes constipation, so they get that exposure, that protein's just hanging out in them for a few days and it's just repeating damage and causing more and more damage. So we want to flush those bowels out. That's one of the first things that we want to do. Now, vitamin C flush is not something you want to do every day. It's not something you want to say, okay, I'm going to eat gluten every day and just do a vitamin C flush. Like, that's a bad idea. Don't do that. But if you get occasional exposure, this is a very good thing that you can do to cleanse out your bowels, to clean them out, push things through your bowels and out of you, right? So how do you do a vitamin C flush? What's the strategy? What do we need to do a vitamin C flush properly? So number one, we need to do it on an empty stomach. So if you're going to do a vitamin C flush, don't eat a big meal and then do a flush, because all you're going to do is take that food you just ate and it's going to, that you're going to just pull a bunch of water into the bowel and you're going to feel horrible. So you want to do it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Best to do it first thing in the morning. So we'll just put a little AM right here. So do it in the AM. Do it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. You want to set aside all day if you've never done it. Now, if you've done it before and you have an idea of what it's like to do a vitamin C flush, you may not need to set aside your whole day. But if you're newbie, if you're new at this, there are pretty rare cases. We see this a lot in the practice, but there are rare cases where people's health is poor enough where it takes them 8 hours or 10 or 12 hours to get through a vitamin C flush. And what you don't want to do is start this thing, okay, and you got to be at a party in 3 hours, right? So plan your day around the flush. Don't plan the flush around your day. I actually had one time a woman, she came to see me. She didn't listen. She just totally ignored this advice. She ended up going to work wearing white pants. I'll let your imaginations fill in the gap, but you can imagine it was not a good ordeal for her. So plan your day around the flush. For most people, on average, it takes about anywhere between 2 and 4 hours. So if you start early in the morning, if you're an early riser and you start at 6 or 7 in the morning, most people are done before noon, and then they can enjoy their day. But you planned your day. If you've never done this before and you're not sure how long it's going to take you, plan your day around it. So again, empty stomach, do it in the morning, plan your day. And then number 4 on this is you want to make sure that you understand how to take the vitamin C. So the best way to do this is start with 2 teaspoons every 15 minutes. Okay, 2 teaspoons every 15 minutes, and you're going to mix this in about 3 ounces, 3 to 4 ounces of water. You want to use water. Don't use a different beverage. Use water. And you don't want to do this with a pill form of vitamin C. You want to do this with a pure ascorbate form of vitamin C. You don't want to use a pill. It won't be fun. If you try to use a pill, it won't happen very quickly. Powder's the way to go. If you're using Detox C, which is my grain-free, gluten-free, corn-free, buffered vitamin C. That's the other thing. You want to use a buffered vitamin C, one that's mineralized, so that it prevents the acid from just irritating your stomach lining that's already irritated because you got gluten exposure. So again, it's 2 teaspoons, which is equivalent to about 6 grams. So 6 grams of vitamin C. It sounds like a lot, but you can do that every 15 minutes until your bowels start moving. And what does that mean? That means diarrhea. So you start having liquid bowel. And so once that happens, once you hit that point, stop. Don't take any more vitamin C. For most people, this takes about 4 rounds. So you take 2 teaspoons 4 times over an hour period of time, and then your bowels start moving. They start pushing. And then their bowels will push for an hour to 2 hours before they're done. And that's just going to clean you out. It's just going to basically move everything that's in you. If you're constipated and you've got gluten protein stuck inside of you, it's just going to help push that stuff out. So the flush, again, can be very, very effective at just cleansing the bowel. But the other reason I like to do the flush is it saturates you with vitamin C. It saturates the system with vitamin C. Why do we want to do that? Vitamin C has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties. Vitamin C has binding properties, so it can be very, very effective. There's some research that shows that celiacs actually heal better when taking vitamin C. So again, this is a very smart idea if you went out and glutened yourself, is to get your bowels flushed. If you're trying to detox quicker and get that gluten out of you as quickly as possible, flush it out of you. It's a one-time event. It's a one-day event. Don't do this every day. Again, don't justify eating gluten on a regular basis and just say, hey, Dr. Osborne said I could just do a flush. It's not what I said. I said if you made the mistake, learn from the mistake, but get better fast, do a flush, and cleanse your bowel out. So this is step one. Like, this is one of my all-time favorite things. I've seen thousands of people go through this. It's very safe to do. People don't have mega side effects from vitamin C. Now, if you're trying this vitamin C flush and you're taking multiple medications and you're working with another doctor and you're not sure, this goes without saying, you should always talk to your doc about this. A lot of them won't know anything about it, but it's still a good idea to make sure that you don't, if you take a medicine, you don't want to take your medicine and then flush out your bowels and flush that medicine out with it. So if there's certain medicines that you're on, you just want to be cautious around that. But this is kind of the synopsis of what a vitamin C flush looks like. Now, what do we do after the flush is done? We follow that up right here with number 2, which is fasting. Fasting. What are we trying to do here? We're trying to give the gut a break, right? We want to give it rest, right? It's broken, right? We've just damaged it. We've just added a protein into our GI tracts that cause inflammation, that cause damage. And your gut's a fast healer. You got to remember, every 2 to 7 days, you have a brand new gut lining. Now, that doesn't mean don't eat for 7 days, but a lot of people find a really tremendous benefit to fasting anywhere between 24 and 48 hours. Some people even as much as up to 3 days. Just depending on what you're capable of tolerating. There are some nuances here, because if you're diabetic and your blood sugar drops or you're taking insulin, like, obviously, again, you want to make sure that you're being monitored if you try to do something like this. But most people can fast for 1 to 2 days without a big deal, and that's going to give their gut a break, and it's going to allow, hopefully, for some time for turnover of that lining. So again, what happens when that lining turns over is it's healing. It's making new cells, and we want to get that in. Can be very, very effective and very, very important in this process. There's some other things that you can do. So we do a flush and then we do a fast, right? So flush, fast, and then there's some other supplements that I generally recommend as well. And so I've alluded to some of these already. So like Biotic Defense is a probiotic designed to help restore and support the normal healthy flora that gluten has been shown to diminish. So this is just a probiotic that can be taken if you do get gluten exposure, just to support that microbiome. The other thing is Gluten Shield. So again, I mentioned this earlier, but these are enzymes that help degrade and break down any gluten that could be potentially still lingering in your intestines, even after a flush. And so, yes, you can take these on an empty stomach. That may be the question that many of you are thinking. It's actually can be very effective to take Gluten Shield on an empty stomach, because if there's no food that it has to digest, it's just going to scour for those proteins, and it has that potential to help do some cleavage with many of those proteins. And then there's another supplement that I really like called Immune Shield. I mentioned this a minute ago. What Immune Shield does is it acts like a surrogate set of handcuffs for your immune system. So it binds onto toxic proteins and other things in the GI tract. Immune Shield, the ingredients in Immune Shield have been shown to bind on to bacterial toxins, to fungal toxins, and other types of food-based toxins, and help your body dispel them through your bowel movement. So again, these are designed to just help restore the flora, make sure that your gut has enzymes to help it degrade any potential gluten that's lingering around, and to create an immune barrier or help that immune function, support that immune function. And then we talked about vitamin C already as doing the flush. So this is my favorite strategy. Is number one is a vitamin C flush. Number 2 is to fast to your tolerance. So that could look like a 24-hour fast. That could look like a 48-hour fast, for some people even longer, just depending on their ability to tolerate it. And then during the fast is to use these. Now, how much of these would be appropriate to use? In this case, about 2 of these a day. In this case, about 4 a day. And in this case, this just depends on whether you're taking the powder or the pills. But I prefer the powder because it's equivalent. 2 scoops of this powder is equivalent to 8 pills. So if you don't mind swallowing the pills, no big deal. But if you'd rather just drink it in water, that could be easier for some people to do. So again, doing this protocol for over a 3-day period, if possible, right, to get you back to hopefully to being pre-glutened, if that makes sense. So look, again, I didn't teach this tonight because I wanted you guys to like have an excuse to go eat gluten and then just have a way to kind of try to recover. Ideally, you just don't want to eat gluten and you don't have to do this. But again, I understand that some people are going to get gluten. Sometimes it's just a pure mistake, and sometimes it's your mistake. But I wanted to give you some options tonight on what you could do. So again, this was my very simple strategy on detoxifying after the holiday party if you get gluten exposure. Let's see who we have that has answered our question about how much gluten causes damage for up to 2 months. A lot of you, it looks like a lot of you have gotten it right. So Russ Moss got it right at 20 parts per million. Let's see. Yeah.
The one I've seen with the correct.
Yeah, it looks like so far. Maybe I jumped the gun there. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I shouldn't have answered it so quickly. It looks like Russ wins. Because, unless there's another person on Facebook that's giving us a right answer. One lick. I like that. So here's our answers, right? So these are funny, guys, and I'm not laughing at you. I'm just kind of laughing at the array of answers. But Christy says 1 lick. Maybe that's what happened to Christy. She was just 1 lick was enough for her. Mark said 1 microgram. Russ said 20 parts per million. Mary Jo says 1 crumb. We got tiny crumb. We have Connie saying any. We have Lynn saying less than a crumb. So, it's just all over the place. But the actual answer is 20 parts per million, which is about the size of 1 breadcrumb. That's approximately the size, which is equivalent to a drop of water in a gallon of water. So my point in even talking about that is it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much gluten to create a lot of inflammation in the GI tract, especially for the ultra sensitive. So again, looks like Russ is the big winner. So Russ, you get a copy of No Grain, No Pain. If you already have a copy, let my team know, and maybe we can allow you to get a gluten-free warrior shirt or a tote bag if you'd prefer. Let's see. Let's take some time to answer some of these questions now. So Dolly is asking about iron deficiency. Dr. Osborne, why do I still have iron deficient anemia if my periods are pretty light and colitis is in remission? I'm following a good diet and exercise regimen. Dolly, it's possible that you have some occult blood loss that you aren't even aware of. Occult blood loss means that you're losing blood through your stool, but you don't see blood in your stool. It's a test your doctor should be able to run very easily. Just have them run an occult stool test to see if you're losing any additional blood. Because sometimes what happens is blood from the upper intestine and stomach oxidizes and it turns brown. So by the time it comes out in the stool, you don't see it. You can't detect that it's there. And sometimes people have blood loss from that area. So if you're not having heavy cycles, that could be it. It could also be that there's still something inhibiting your iron uptake. And sometimes we see post-gluten sensitivity, people have damaged their stomachs. There's still damage in the stomach, and so iron absorption is somewhat hindered. And there are a number of different tests that a knowledgeable nutrition doc should be able to run to help you navigate that. But beyond those, I would start there, and then I might also just suggest that you just could have a long-standing iron deficiency that you've got to supplement longer. Some people have to supplement longer to dig themselves out of that anemic hole. So it just depends on how long you've been gluten-free and how long you've been at the healthy diet, the no grain, no pain diet. I love that. Star says, I got No Grain, No Pain. I haven't started reading it yet. I just got it a couple days ago. All right, Star. So now's your chance. So everybody, welcome Star to the club, right? But next time you come back, hopefully you'll be through a few chapters, and a lot of this will make better sense for you. Let's see. Barbara's asking about the lemon bar recipe that we had last week. I don't know if we can pull that up. If we can, Barbara, we'll get that put up in the feed for you. So we'll repost that link. Let's see here. Sue's asking, how do I lower my LPA? LPA, I'm going to assume you mean, Sue, because you spelled it LP capital A, but I hope I'm not making the wrong assumption, but I'm going to assume you mean LP little a, lipoprotein A. It would actually be a small a, not a big A. How do you lower it? You don't. Lipoprotein A is one of the actual true cholesterol markers that is genetic, and you're not going to bring it down with diet. I've only seen two things lower LPA, and both of them, one makes more sense than the other, but one of them is a carnivore diet. I've seen lipoprotein little a be lowered as a result of people going on a carnivore diet, but it hasn't been consistent. Like, not everybody that goes on a carnivore diet has a lowered LPA. So we don't know why that happened, but I've seen it happen a few times in people doing carnivore. The other reason I've seen LPA lower is vitamin C. So kind of what we were talking about earlier is that 5 grams of vitamin C daily, I've seen have an effect on lipoprotein A anywhere between 5 and 10 points. But if your lipoprotein A is 90 or 100, and some people's are, it's not going to 5-10 points is not that big of a dip. You really want your lipoprotein A to be somewhere under 20. Ideally, but it is a genetic marker, meaning we believe it's a genetic trait that you have less control over than many of the other parameters around cholesterol. Let's see here. Is fasting the best way to detox all the junk we ate? It's one of the best ways. I love to fast. I always fast after a holiday meal. I spend at the very least, a good 20 hours fasting after a major debacle of overeating, because I always overeat during the holidays. I eat well, but I overeat, and so I like to fast and give my gut that break. So, question about osteonecrosis. I'm going to assume that's what you mean and not osteoporosis, because osteonecrosis is a real word. But no, I've not done a full show on osteonecrosis and functional cures, but we could certainly put that in the queue coming into the future. Is fasting, let's see, I answered that one. For moderate intensity exercise, when is it best to supplement with water-soluble vitamins? Before or after said exercise? After. Always better to do any kind of supplementation or eating after your workout. A lot of people go into their workout and they fill their stomach. They eat, or they do a smoothie or like an energy type deal. I don't recommend that, because one of the things that causes leaky gut transiently is intense exercise. So if you're doing really light, moderate exercise like yoga or stretching, it's probably not that big a deal. But if you're doing something more aggressive, like a high intensity interval style exercise or workout, like a Tabata or a CrossFit style workout or a boot camp style workout, you really don't want a full stomach. And you don't want a bunch of pills sloshing around. Remember, what happens when you exercise is blood leaves your gut to go to your muscles. And so you're taking the resource of blood away from the GI tract. You don't want to put a bunch of food or a bunch of supplements in you that your gut has to deal with while you're also pushing all your blood out to your extremities. So it's always best to do it after the exercise is done. Would I advise to avoid all foods that list vinegar as one of the ingredients but don't identify a specific type of vinegar? I would, unless you can verify where the vinegar is coming from, Mary Jo. Vinegar most of the time is corn, unfortunately. Now, not all are. There's some great products with apple cider vinegar. I've seen products with plum vinegar and other types of vinegar instead, but you do want to verify that it isn't corn. Okay. My buddy claims to be gluten-free, but he was eating cornmeal and rice. I tried to explain, but told me that he will listen to his doctor, not me. That's kind of the way of it. So, what most people have to do before they can recognize that corn and rice also have forms of gluten is they have to go through what I call the trial by fire, which is They go on their gluten-free diet or what they think is gluten-free. They don't really recover or get better, or they start getting worse in other ways. And so now they're open to the suggestion, and that's when you hand them a copy of No Grain, No Pain, and you don't ask them to listen to you. You just say, hey, look, you might benefit from reading this book, or send them to Gluten-Free Society, the blog. It's free. They don't even have to buy it. They just got to go and have time and willingness to learn. As a general rule, just the time and willingness to learn. Let's see, a question from Shinquillo, is ethanol to be avoided if sensitive to gluten? Does it contain grain? So most ethanol, just like we're talking about with vinegar, is corn derivative. A lot of your ethanol, now sometimes they're made from sugar cane or other things, but they're corn or other grain derivatives. So I don't really encourage a lot of ethanol in some of the tinctures that are being produced in the supplement world. So, sometimes you can find good tinctures that have organic cane sugar ethanol, which in my opinion is a better choice. Go back up just a little bit on that side. Is colostrum safe? So some people do okay with colostrum. Some people don't with gluten. And one of the reasons why is some people that are really ultra sensitive to dairy, like have a really ultra sensitivity, don't do as well with colostrum. It's actually where we would use something instead like Immune Shield. And actually the ingredients of Immune Shield, in my opinion, are much more powerful than any colostrum. Just the effect, the proteins, the immune enhancement, the immune protection is far greater than what colostrum has to offer. Does a far infrared sauna help detoxify from being gluten? Not so much. Far infrared is a great thing to do. It's a great way to help detox, but specifically from gluten, the strategy I gave you guys tonight is your best strategy. Yeah, you're not gonna sauna out the gluten, typically speaking, because what the sauna will help is it will help with the inflammation that gluten caused, but it's not going to get rid of the gluten, if that makes sense. Okay, let's go down on both sides here. I used to work in a daycare. There was a girl attending the daycare. She was diagnosed with celiac disease. She was given food with gluten by the kitchen. My boss told me her intestines will heal. I was so mad to do this to a 4-year-old girl, and you can't open her up to see if her intestines healed. Yeah, that's disgusting. I have to say, like, Cynthia, thanks for sharing that story. Years ago, there was a chef, I want to say it was in Colorado, but he was purposefully serving gluten in his restaurant to people that were requesting gluten-free. And I think they ended up closing his restaurant down. He might even have gone to jail for a time. But I mean, that's criminal. It'd be one thing if they didn't know and they accidentally did it. It's a totally another thing when you're asking and they're saying they'll heal. I mean, they should shut that daycare down. Let's see here. Will you get stomach pain with the flush? Nicole wants to know. So if you're doing the vitamin C flush, will that cause stomach pain? Some people get gassy and bloaty. But I've never seen anybody get like direct stomach pain where like, oh my gosh, it was just like a searing pain. It's just more like because as that water's pulling into your bowel, you get a little gas and bloated until it pushes out. But no, we don't typically see people get a lot of stomach pain. Can ascorbic acid be made of something other than corn or wheat? It can be, yes. And so that's why you always want to know. Ascorbic acid doesn't have to be corn or wheat, but it can be. Ascorbic acid could come from citrus. So again, it can come, they're cherries. There are a number of things that vitamin C can be derived, or ascorbic acid can be derived from as far as ascorbic acid is concerned. It's just that in the industry, the common standard is to use corn because it's the cheapest. And so most products do use corn. We don't. So at Gluten-Free Society, if you use our Detox C, you're not going to get corned. I like this comment from Robbie. She says, I love your vitamin C. I only need 3 grams to flush, and my flush time is 45 to 60 minutes. Yeah, that's awesome. That's an example of somebody who's dialed in, and if they do a flush, it happens really, really fast. It's really, really simple. It's very, very potent. Okay, let's see. Do you recommend activated charcoal for gluten-free accidents? Not really. There's no research that shows that charcoal binds gluten, and so that would be highly hypothetical to do that as a tool to bind gluten. Gluten is a protein. It has to be deactivated, which is why we recommend Gluten Shield. because the enzymes in that denature and deactivate the peptide, and that's really what you want to do with gluten. Charcoal's not going to do much for that. Now, charcoal can be helpful for a lot of other things. It's just not going to reduce your gluten exposure damage. That's the other reason why we recommend the flush. Again, it's to get it out of you, right? If there's any lingering in you, it's to get it out of you as quickly as we can. Is it true that glucose and vitamin C compete for the same transporter? Not to a huge degree. There's some competition, but not enough to worry about taking vitamin C and affecting blood sugar levels. I struggle, Annette says, I struggle with not eating regular bread. I am gluten intolerant. Annette, you're in the right place. Like, if you struggle, connect with some of the folks in our forum. Join our Facebook forum. Come over to Gluten Free Society and sign up for our newsletter. If you struggle, you've got a community here. We are Gluten Free Warriors. We're here to help and serve and help you overcome your struggles. Let's see here. Yeah, so Betty says the recovery bundle has the C tabs. That must be for after. It is, Betty, and so if you're looking for the powder, you would do that separately. We have a gluten recovery bundle which has the vitamin C tabs, and that's for after as well. How can we detox from a nagging wife or husband? I like that question. I don't know, man. You gotta resolve your nagging wife or husband in your own mind. Like, are they nagging, or are they just telling you the truth you don't want to hear? Like, that's usually in my world when my wife is, quote unquote nagging. It's usually justified. She's usually telling me something I don't want to hear, and she's usually right. So anyway, I don't know how to answer that question, but I love the humor. I like this. So we got absolutely no gluten in my mouth anymore. I follow no grain, no pain. I eat only my own prepared food. Take no chances. Love that, man. True warrior. Love that you're taking it diligently and seriously. Ricky's asking about a vitamin C flush for a colonoscopy prep. Yeah, we see people doing it all the time, Ricky. Obviously, you want to talk to your GI doctor. Most of them aren't familiar with it, so they're not going to be comfortable with it. But I can tell you, I've seen a number of people choose to do that, and they fly through their colonoscopy with no issues at all. I mean, it cleans you out better than, in my opinion, just as good is the toxic nonsense that has corn filler in it that most doctors prescribe you before that colonoscopy. It never made sense to me to take a toxic compound right before colonoscopy that could irritate your lining, and then you're going to shove a camera up there to see if your lining is irritated. Like, how much sense does that make to take poison to then take a picture? Anyway, I like this. So Mary says, oh, the holidays. So I got a larger purse and to always bring my own food in a Ziploc. Trust no one. We talked about that last week. I like to hear a lot of you kind of reaffirming that, right? OPF. What's the song? OPF, you know me. What, I don't know. That maybe it's a different acronym that we shouldn't talk about on the show. But what about those of us that cannot fast due to hypoglycemia or other medical condition? If you can't fast, do the flush and try intermittent fasting instead. Like, give your body as long of a break as you can tolerate with the hypoglycemic episode. So if you can do 14 hours, do it. If you can do 16 hours, do it. If you can do 18, do it. So do what you can tolerate, but give your gut as long a period of break as you can in between meals for that first several days. As far as parasite binding agents, it just depends. I mean, my favorite natural anti-parasitic formula to support parasitic fluidity through the GI tract really is something called intestinal defense. And that's a formula on Gluten Free Society. I talked about that a number of weeks ago in relationship to the disease that shall not be named, because one of the ingredients in that it has antiviral properties that are similar to ivermectin. As a matter of fact, one of the ingredients, it's called artemisinin, shared the Nobel Prize in medicine with ivermectin. I think it was back in 2015 for its potency in that way. So that's what I prefer naturally if you're trying to do a cleanse in that way. Go back up just a little on that left. Yeah. So another comment on that daycare giving a little girl gluten. Somebody said they should also pay her medical bills. How awful. Don't disagree. Would you consider desiccated beef liver supplements for iron? Yeah, potentially, but it depends on the quality of the desiccated beef liver supplement and the quantity. You got to eat a lot of desiccated beef liver pills in order to get a quantity of iron from those types of supplements. Most people take 2 pills a day, and you really got to be upwards of 10, 12 of those pills, depending on the size of the capsule. If they're 500 milligrams, you got to get more than a couple pills to get any kind of meaningful amount of iron from a desiccated liver pill. So Angel says, I did fasting for 20 days. I had a contamination a few days ago, but my body did not react. How come? Some people get to a point on their gluten-free journey where when their body's really healthy and resilient, if they get an accidental exposure, they're resilient. So they don't end up on the floor, end up in the hospital, or end up in dramatic pain because their body has resiliency to deal with it. And that's really where most of you want to be. Where if you accidentally got exposure, it's not wrecking you for 2 months. Where we see people get really clobbered is when they're newer to the journey, in that first 12 months where they're getting many exposures here, there, and everywhere by accident or on purpose, and they haven't fully recovered yet. So their body is just basically screaming at them, stop it. It's trying to get you to quit by sending symptoms your way. But once you're on a good side of health, sometimes people don't experience a dramatic change. But if they continue to get those exposures, it kind of creeps back in and then slowly starts to eat away at their health. Since going grain-free, I'm craving protein. Any ideas? Yeah, eat more meat if you're not a vegetarian. Think about your protein intake. If you've gone grain-free because of a health issue, a lot of people are protein malnourished. And so as a general rule of thumb, if you are protein malnourished, you want to get 1.2 to 1.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And so your body may be craving protein for you because it needs that protein as an agent to heal because you've been damaged for so long. So don't be shy. This, for many of you is going to equate to, if you take your body weight in kilograms, and I think you divide it by 2.2, you get pounds. Or you multiply pounds by 2.2, you get kilograms. Did I say that right? No, you divide pounds by 2.2. Yes, thank you. Pounds divided by 2.2 equals kilograms. So that's the right calculation. I had to just think about that for a minute. I don't do much metric. We're in the U.S. But that was what's going to give you. So you multiply whatever that number is by between 1.2 and 1.4. So if you're, as an example, let's say that you're 120 pounds, it's going to be roughly approximately 60 kilograms. So 60 times 1.2 or 1.4 is going to get you somewhere around 70 grams-ish of protein in a day. And so that's, if you're under that mark, a lot of people, when they're transitioning their diet, they're at 40, 50 grams of protein a day. It's just not enough to heal. So you may be craving that protein for that reason. So in that regard, adjust your protein intake up, and the best way to do that is with food, right? But if you're out of food options or you need supplemental options, check out our ultra pure protein. Like, it's a great beef-derived, grass-fed beef-derived protein that you can use and make a smoothie with. Let's see. Can gluten cause a sinus infection, and what do you recommend? Yeah, gluten, it's not that it causes an infection. Gluten can cause your sinuses to fill up with mucus. That's not an infection per se. Now, gluten can sequester your immune system's attention, right? So it can, it weakens your immune system, gluten can, and so it can predispose you to developing or picking up a sinus infection. But gluten itself is not a direct cause, because gluten is not an infectious agent, right? It's not an infectious microorganism, but it can cause excessive mucus production and compact your sinuses, which predispose you to developing infection, along with weakening of the immune system. So, one of the best things you can do to help support good sinus drainage, we have something called Ultra Sinus Support. It's a gluten-free formula, and one of the primary ingredients in it is is N-acetylcysteine, NAC, which has been, NAC is one of those things right now. You're really hard pressed to get NAC because everybody's buying it up in large quantities, and the supplement companies can't keep up. And there's this fear that it's going to be pulled from the market soon. But we still have it in stock. If you're looking for NAC, just go visit Gluten Free Society. But Ultra Sinus Support's a great formula to help support sinus drainage. Somebody's asking about just using modified citrus pectin. It's not a great thing to do for a flush. Like, again, you're not going to use citrus pectin. Pectin's a binder, so you're using that more as a binding agent and not to have a diarrhea episode. The vitamin C, in my opinion, is the best way to do a bowel flush, like a true flush. Why do I have ALT liver enzyme high despite being gluten-free? That's a good question. I don't know. There are a lot of reasons why. I mean, alcohol can do it. Other food sensitivities can do it. Living in a moldy environment can do it. Having a yeast overgrowth can do it. Like, there's a number of possibilities, Angel, of why that could be the case. So that would be just a great thing to explore with your doctor if he's open to exploring those different areas. Again, a lot of doctors will just tell you don't worry about it, depending on how high the elevation is. And other doctors might send you to a liver expert and have biopsies and other things done, because there's also a form of autoimmune hepatitis. So, the question I would have for you, Angel, is are you true gluten-free or are you traditional gluten-free? Because if you're not true gluten-free, that may be one of the reasons why. But again, there are other reasons the liver can struggle. Deanne is asking why vitamin D levels don't increase even with supplementation. What can cause the absorption issue? So a lot of times vitamin D won't elevate when you supplement because there's two main reasons that I see. Number one, you're not taking anywhere near the quantity that's necessary to increase your level. For most adults, you got to get to 10,000 units a day. 10,000 units, international units a day of vitamin D. Most people are scared of that. Most doctors are scared of that, so they'll tell you 2,000. 2,000 is like spitting on a forest fire. You're not doing anything. You're not going to elevate your D levels with that amount. The other reason why we'll see vitamin D levels be challenging to press up is, one of the bigger ones is that a person has an underlying source of chronic inflammation. Your body uses vitamin D to put out the fire. And so if you're chronically inflamed, taking more vitamin D isn't going to fix the fact that you're inflamed. It might help support your body's ability to deal with inflammation, but it's not going to fix the cause of the inflammation. So you might look into, if you are inflamed, what the underlying reason as to the inflammation is. What are sources of complete proteins? Number one complete protein in the world is egg, if you're not allergic to egg. It's hands down, it's the best source of all essential amino acids present in one food. A second is meat, animal meats. So egg and animal meats are your best sources of complete protein. All of your plant-based proteins are incomplete proteins, and some are better than others. Like lentils have a more representative amino acid ratio and higher quantity than, let's say, spinach, right? Some of your vegetables. But as a general rule of thumb, beans, lentils, nuts, and vegetables are all incomplete sources of protein. The only true complete sources of protein are, number one, your egg, highest quality protein known to man, and number two is your other animal flesh. If I add some bison liver to a pot of beef bone broth, will it ruin the taste? Depends on your taste buds, Mark. It might if you don't like liver. I personally don't like liver, and I can pick it up really easy. So for me, it would ruin the taste. But I would just say it. Taste is a relative thing. So sorry, I can't be more helpful than that. Can you detox from a clot shot? Some people out there talking about whether or not you can. I think ultimately no one knows. I mean, scientifically, nobody really knows, because here's one of the reasons: nobody really knows what's in them. We have so much evidence already of these companies lying about the ingredients, right? Hiding the ingredients, hiding the fact that was one of the companies, I think it was Pfizer, that hid the fact that there were aborted fetal cell tissue in their shot. And they lied, and we caught them. If you go to Project Veritas, which is a journalistic group that nailed them in that lie, like, we can't trust. The whole point is we don't have trust, right? It's like a relationship. If you don't trust the person you're in a relationship with, how do you detox from a bad relationship? You break it off. How do you detox from doing something to your body that you didn't want to do? Well, it depends on what's in it, and because we can't trust them to know what's in it, it's really hard for any of these people to make any great, real medical claims about how to detox. I'd say the best way that we know for the body to detox is to take great care of it, is to not pump chemicals into it, to sleep well, to eat well, to exercise, to get sunshine, to breathe clean air, to drink clean water, lots of it. And your body is, as a system, your body is one of the greatest filters ever created, right? So take care of that filter as if your life depended on it, because it does. And don't put things in that don't belong. Why is NAC better than L-cysteine? Because it's better absorbed. The N-acetyl component improves the absorption, so it's better in that way. I had a doctor tell me that vitamin D caused kidney stones. I have a problem with that. Yeah, I do too. I think that's, for the most part, vitamin D doesn't cause kidney stones at all. As a matter of fact, vitamin D deficiency causes kidney stones, because what actually happens is your parathyroid glands, when your serum calcium, so if this is your bloodstream, and if your calcium in your blood is low, your parathyroid glands will produce parathyroid hormone, okay, and that will travel to your bones, and it will take the calcium out of your bone and push it into your bloodstream. And so why would this happen? This happens because of vitamin D deficiency. So understand, low vitamin D leads to low serum calcium, which can lead to activation of the parathyroid, which can lead to leaching of calcium from the bone, which can lead to bone loss. This is kind of this is like, I don't know, to me, this is elementary physiology, and if your doctor's saying the opposite, they need to go back to their textbook. Now, that being said, vitamin D, what you want to understand about vitamin D is over here in your intestine, right? Vitamin D increases calcium uptake in your intestine. So when you are eating food with calcium, there's calcium in your intestine. With vitamin D, what vitamin D allows is that calcium to be absorbed into your blood. So when your vitamin D levels are low, you don't absorb calcium from the diet, from the food that you eat as effectively, and so your blood levels become low, which then activates your parathyroid to break your bone down so that your blood never goes below a certain level of calcium, because if it does, you'll have a heart attack. Just a quick crash course on parathyroid. So taking vitamin D doesn't cause kidney stones. Taking vitamin D could actually save you from a kidney stone, because if you're using parathyroid to regulate your serum calcium, what ends up happening over time is that parathyroid pushes too much calcium into your blood. So now your blood calcium goes up, and then it has to go through your kidneys, and your kidneys will take that calcium and they will bind that calcium with an oxalate crystal in the form calcium oxalate, and that's what 90% of stones are made from. So vitamin D doesn't cause kidney stones, to put it shortly. Solita says, my vitamin D level when hospitalized in August with COVID was 109. Would you recommend that I continue to supplement? That was in August. So now what are we in? We're 3 months out, almost 4 months away from August. Get it checked again, Solita. If it, what happens right now during this time of the year, if you're in the northern hemisphere, is your vitamin D levels drop in the winter. It's a normal part of what happens this time of the year, because there's less availability of sunshine and vitamin D production by UV light. So get your level checked. My advice is, if you're trying to keep them up, great place to try to keep your vitamin D during winter, if you're trying to really support your immune system, is between 70 and 100. Now, if it's 109, that's not toxic. A lot of doctors flip out and get you worried and get you all panicked about vitamin D being 109. But that's nothing to panic about. I mean, we see people on a regular basis who supplement where their levels can go up under 100, and you can stop supplementation and those levels will come back down within days. So it's not like you got to be worried about a major toxicity. Is fasting recommended for perimenopausal women? Is hormone disruption a concern? No, fasting's fine. If you're perimenopausal, you can fast, again, as long as you can tolerate it. There's no danger in fasting. Can hemp hearts trigger inflammation for someone with non-celiac gluten sensitivity? No, I mean, not unless you're also reacting to hemp hearts, meaning your body is sensitive to that food item. But as a general rule, no. I mean, there's not a correlation or cross-reactivity between hemp hearts and gluten. Any luck finding a retailer in Toronto to carry Warrior Bread? Not yet. We're waiting for COVID to kind of go away to a certain extent where we can actually do business again across a border without dramatic headaches. So be patient with us, and we're going to do our best to get that taken care of. Can you recommend a safe shampoo to help with hair loss? So no shampoo is going to help with hair loss. Hair loss comes from the inside out. It doesn't come from the use of a shampoo unless you're using a shampoo that has poison in it that's causing damage to your hair follicles, leading to that loss. But most people's hair loss, I'll give you a couple of top simple things that cause hair loss that we see. Number one is your thyroid. Ask your doctor to check your thyroid. Low thyroid will lead to hair loss. Number two, gluten. Gluten can cause low thyroid, which is one of the reasons why many women have low thyroid in the first place. So gluten can definitely cause hair loss. Number three is your protein level. Most of the time, people eat too little protein, and remember, your hair is made from protein. And when you're trying to recover after years of gluten-induced damage, you oftentimes need more protein than what you may need for the rest of your life. But those first many months, you might need more protein. And so your body does not prioritize hair growth over healing. And so hair loss can come from that as well. Those are just examples. But I would say if it looks like you're on a paleo diet and you try to stay away from gluten. So trying to stay away from gluten is not good enough. You have to stay away from gluten if that's the trigger. You can't try. You have to definitely do it. Remember what we said tonight: 20 parts per million is enough to create damage for up to 2 months. After consuming gluten, how to deal? I'm going to assume you mean deal with severe body aches and pains. So doing this protocol that I shared with you tonight would be what I would suggest. Is really jump on that protocol quickly. Do we do post to Australia? We do if somebody is a client in the practice. We ship to Australia, but generally from Gluten Free Society as our storefront there, no, we don't ship yet. We're working on a FedEx deal right now where we're hoping to be able to ship much easier and much cheaper to folks overseas. What do you think about grain-free bread? Karen wants to know, and any allergies. I love grain-free bread. We have Warrior Bread, which is a grain-free bread mix. As long as you're not allergic to any of the ingredients. It's predominantly fiber into almond flour, a little bit of coconut flour, tapioca flour. So they're really good ingredients. Sodium lauryl sulfate and let's see, R8 in shampoo and bad for, yeah, so SLS, sodium lauryl sulfate, bad for your hair. I think that was just somebody trying to answer the hair loss question. Check your shampoo products for SLS and SDS. They're not good for your hair. When looking at the ingredients of vitamin C formula, are there any hidden designations for the presence of grain? There can be. I mean, most of the time, so ascorbyl palmitate is an example of a potential for corn. Not all ascorbyl palmitate is corn, but some can be. So that is a potential as a hidden ingredient. Ascorbic acid is a potential. Citric acid is a potential. Again, it doesn't mean grain's in there, but it means you should verify that it isn't. Those are the big ones. And then any other fillers. A lot of times the vitamin C, we'll see things like rice flour and rice syrup and other garbage that doesn't belong in any supplement. But that's what a lot of manufacturers do. They put junk in their product. So I think a lot of questions about bio. I'm going to assume you mean biosil, meaning silicate, like a bamboo-based silica for helping to detoxify like heavy metal. It can be helpful. It definitely can be helpful. Bamboo silica can be a valuable detoxifier, but in my experience, there are better ones than silicate. Silicate's a good natural one that is going to do a slow steady metal detox. But if you want something a little faster but also at the same time doesn't knock you out, there are definitely, in my opinion, better options. I have a formula called Ultra Metal Detox that you might want to look at. It's got a number of ingredients in it that act as binding agents. Let's see here. If you're a vegetarian, so I think going back to the question about protein earlier, what if you're a vegetarian and need more protein? Well, eat more protein. It's really that simple. Do the math. If you can't get it from the food sources, you might consider supplementation. We do have a vegan, plant-based organic pea protein, Robbie, called Ultra. What do we call that? We changed the name recently. We had a contest. I can't remember exactly. We'll put that link up for you, Robbie. That way you have access to it. You can read more about it. Is organic really organic when crops are being grown with city water full of chlorine and fluoride? I love that question. I think it depends on the source of the water the farmer is using. A lot of farms, out in the country use wells. I mean, on my farm, we use a well water, and our well is it's over 700 foot deep. So I know it's filtered better than any filter you could ever buy. And it doesn't contain the chlorine or the fluorine or the other nonsense that we don't want in our water. So I think it just depends on the farmer and what the source of the water it is that they're using. If they're piping the water in from the city and they're not filtering it adequately, I think you really have to challenge that. I mean, we know, just like in major metropolitan areas like in Houston, there's 42 prescription drugs that you can actually identify in the drinking water. That to me is quite alarming, and I would not want to call something grown with that organic. What's my take on Mimosa pudica? I think it's good as a scouring agent for the GI tract. As far as like a deep detox, I mean, there's so many other options. If you're talking about, it depends on what kind of detoxification you're talking about, because there's detoxification that occurs in multiple different organs through multiple different mechanisms. But if you're just talking about the gut, it's a good way to scour the gut. Let's see here. What causes elevated complement 3A? Inflammation. There's an immune assault happening in your body if your complement 3A is elevated. And there are a lot of different things that can cause that. I'm low on iron. Cheryl's asking, I'm low on iron. What's a good iron tablet? Ultra Iron. We put a link up for you, Cheryl. Ultra Iron, highly bioavailable form of iron with cofactors that help iron absorb and work better. Is fasting dangerous for someone with kidney 3B stage 3B? I assume you mean kidney failure stage 3B. No, fasting's not dangerous. Again, when you choose to do a fast, if you're worried or concerned of a medical issue, it's always a good idea to talk with your doctor about it. But as a general rule of thumb, most people can fast, minus your insulin-dependent diabetics, most people can fast really 24 hours without any major danger. Let's see. How to rebuild enamel through supplements and diet of the teeth? Good question. I think more than anything, there's one great way to know. So it's not like, hey, build your enamel with this. Like, there's not like the perfect supplement that's going to build enamel. I think one of the things that most of you should understand about enamel is that gluten causes enamel erosion. We're certain of it. There's been a number of studies that confirm that, as do other things. Gluten's not the only thing. So, I mean, if you want your enamel to grow back, if you want good enamel, quit damaging it. That's number one, right? Number one rule. Don't just take a bunch of pills and do the things that can damage it. Not that you are, but a lot of people, that's what they try to do. Beyond that, get tested. Nutritionally, get tested. Test for your vitamin and mineral levels, because there are a lot of nutrients that go into the production of enamel. The healthy production of enamel requires multiple types of nutrients. And so how do you know what you're low in? Because you get it tested. And, when you get it tested, you don't have to guess about what to take. How do you detoxify hydrogenated fat? Man, the questions. The number one way to detox is to not tox. But, okay, that's kind of a jerk answer. So there's not really a way to detoxify from hydrogenated fat. One of the best things that you can do is take a really strong, heavy enzyme with amylase, not less amylase, but more lipase. Lipase is a fat degrading enzyme, so it will help break that fat down and potentially, basically denature and break it down so that your body can excrete it better. But you're going to get rid of that hydrogenated fat, just quit eating it. Is turmeric and coconut oil safe as a toothpaste substitute? I don't want the fluoride. Turmeric and coconut oil aren't abrasive, so they're not really going to scrub the teeth. You'd want to have some kind of abrasive, like a baking powder or something. Even some people use like an activated charcoal type toothpaste because there's some abrasiveness to it, and so it helps actually to scrub and clean the teeth. Somebody's asking about ultra iron. Is it high dose? It's not high. It depends on how much of them you take, right? One of the tabs of ultra iron is 25 milligrams, which I wouldn't consider to be high dose. I mean, we take people up to 150 milligrams, which is 6 times that with severe iron deficiency. So it just depends. It depends on the size of the person, the weight of the person, etc. My son's recovering from a horrid glutening, called me today with a bloody nose so bad. He said, if it doesn't stop in 10 minutes, Mom, I'll need to help to get to the ER. Gluten causes bleeding in my kids. He's 27 now, and it's a horrible, horrible symptom. I told him a spinach, banana, blueberry, and orange smoothie, it works. I taught them young, every single product has to be gluten-free. I'm glad that you're out there teaching. That's interesting, Kat, because my oldest son, his symptom of being glutened, actually, his original symptom was nose bleeding. He would have spontaneous nosebleeds that would just go on, and sometimes he would pass out. He also would pass out, so that was one of the things that clued us in for him. Thanks for sharing. Let's see here. MS for 12 years, was stable a month ago, had a mild stroke. Only issue doctors found was high bad cholesterol. I run out of energy before the day is over. I eat AIP. Any advice for me? Yeah, you got to get to a good functional medicine doc, because that's not a simple, hey, give me a 5 seconds of advice. I mean, you've got a major issue, a major condition, and that needs to be looked at with the time and attention and care that it deserves. If you can't find somebody locally, call my practice. Let's see here. What would cause bone loss in the mouth? Poor nutrition is the main issue for bone loss in the mouth. I think we got any more on the right side there? We covered them.
That's bottom.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that's another record. I think we got to them all. A lot of good questions tonight. All right. I'm going to go home and eat dinner. Hopefully you'll do the same thing. Spend some time with your family. We'll see you next Monday night for another episode of Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain. Thanks so much for joining me. And if you're new to the show, make sure you jump over to glutenfreesociety.org. You can subscribe to our newsletter there. That's the one way that you can get access to me uncensored. We're getting ready to move all of our platforms over there. So I'd encourage all of you, if you haven't already done it, to do that, because if you want access to Dr. Osborne, we'll just say unfiltered. You've been getting the filtered version of me for a long time for censorship. Then you definitely want to subscribe to that newsletter. So again, that's glutenfreesociety.org. We will see you next Monday for another episode of Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain. One last announcement. If you didn't know, we're having our Cyber Monday extension sale. It goes through midnight tonight. So if you're looking for high quality premium gluten-free supplements, make sure we'll put that special code that you can use. This ends at midnight, so don't miss it if you're in the market for quality supplements. Again, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next Monday. Take care. Biotic Defense is one of my favorite products. It's a premium gluten-free multi-strain probiotic designed to support the digestion and absorption of nutrients and overall GI health. This supplement was developed to support those with gluten sensitivity. Look, we're bombarded daily with antibiotics in the water, in our food, and medications. And this overutilization has contributed to a wide array of gastrointestinal problems, from IBS, SIBO, inflammatory bowel disease, and autoimmune problems. The microbiome is considered by scientists to be an essential component to good health. The friendly bacteria help us digest our food, produce vitamins, produce neurochemicals like serotonin and dopamine, and to support our immune response. So here are the highlights about biotic defense. Number one, it contains probiotic strains found to be lacking in those diagnosed with gluten sensitivity or celiac disease. Two, it contains probiotic strains found in research studies to help reduce GI discomfort in those with celiac disease. Three, it contains strains that research has shown to help stimulate mucin production. Now, mucin is extremely important because it serves as a barrier, one of the 5 primary barriers in the GI tract that helps to prevent leaky gut. 4, it contains strains shown to support digestion. It contains strains shown to support the production of vitamins, and it contains a prebiotic to support healthy balance of friendly bacteria. Now, for daily maintenance use, take 1 capsule at bedtime. If you want enhanced performance, take a capsule in the morning when you wake up and another capsule at bedtime. Remember that biotic defense is plant-based and it's safe for vegetarians. It's also dairy and soy free, and like all of our products, it's gluten-free as well. Hey, don't forget to tune in next week, same time, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, for another Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain show. Bring all your toughest health questions to me. I look forward to answering them. And before you leave today, make sure you hit subscribe. And once you do, click that bell. That bell is going to allow us to remind you right before we go live. But it's also going to allow us to remind you when we come out with other video content all week long. We've got lots of episodes coming your way all week long, and I don't want you to miss anything. So again, subscribe, hit that bell so that you can get notified when we have that new information put up for you. Thanks so much, and I'm wishing you excellent health. Have a great week. We'll see you next Monday night.